Most people wait their whole lives for the perfect moment. Daniel didn't. He created it. In just 5 seconds. Fear will tell you you're not ready. Daniel believed it. Until one small choice proved fear wrong forever. What if I told you your whole life could change? Between now and the count of 5. 4. Daniel was an ordinary fan of Mel Robbins. What he did next. It shocked everyone, including himself. This is not a story about luck. This is about courage, and it starts with 5 seconds. The rain had been falling for hours, tapping gently against the small apartment window like a clock reminding him that time was slipping away. Daniel sat at his desk, staring at the same half-written email he had opened 3 hours ago. His fingers hovered above the keyboard, frozen. His mind kept whispering the same excuses it had whispered for years. Not today. You're not ready. You'll mess it up. On the bookshelf to his right, a single paperback leaned forward, as if it wanted to be noticed. The yellow cover was worn from too many readings. The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. He had bought it 2 years ago after stumbling on one of her short videos online. At that time, he was just another anonymous face in the crowd, scrolling through social media, wasting evenings convincing himself that big dreams were for other people. That night 2 years ago, he had watched Mel look straight into the camera and say, "You are one decision away from a completely different life. Don't wait. Count backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and move." Something in her voice had cut through the fog in his head. It wasn't loud. It wasn't overly dramatic, but it was certain. The kind of certainty he hadn't felt in years. Now, as the rain streaked down the glass, he opened the book again. Not to read the whole thing, he practically knew it by heart, but to remind himself of something simple. 1 page, 1 sentence, 1 spark to get him moving. He flipped to a part he had underlined. If you only act when you feel like it, you will never get anything done. You have to push yourself. You're never going to feel ready. Daniel leaned back in his chair and sighed. It sounded so easy when Mel said it. She had that way of making the impossible sound like a set of instructions you could follow before breakfast. But in his world, every step felt like walking through quicksand. His phone buzzed. It was Maya, his best friend since college. Still thinking about that conference? Deadline is tonight. He stared at the screen. The conference. The thing he had been telling himself he wasn't ready for. Speaking on stage in front of strangers about his work, his story, about him. He could already hear the voice in his head. You'll make a fool of yourself. They'll see you for what you are. Small. Ordinary. But then another voice pushed through. Faint but familiar. Mel's voice, echoing from that old video. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. His heart pounded. His hands moved before his brain could stop them. The email was finished. Sent. The application was submitted. No perfect plan. No overthinking. Just done. For a moment, he sat there, stunned. There was no fireworks show, no dramatic soundtrack. But there was a strange sense of power in the air. Like the first time you realize you can lift something heavier than you thought. He texted Maya back. Submitted. God help me. Her reply came instantly. Proud of you. This is just the start. And maybe it was. The next morning, Daniel woke up with the same feeling you get the day after sending a risky text. You want to check your phone? But you're terrified of what you'll see. The conference committee hadn't replied yet, and the silence was already trying to pull him back into doubt. He made coffee, opened his laptop, and instead of diving into work, he found himself typing Mel Robbins' podcast into YouTube. The latest episode was titled Stop Waiting for Permission. He clicked play. Mel's voice filled the small kitchen like sunlight slipping through half-closed blinds. If you're waiting for someone to tell you that you're good enough, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. Nobody is coming to rescue you. You're it. You have to rescue yourself. Daniel closed his eyes. It felt like she was talking directly to him. Like she knew he had been holding his own life hostage, waiting for some invisible hand to push him forward. That evening he got the email. Congratulations, you've been selected to speak at the Summit for Change. His breath caught in his throat. There it was. The thing he thought was for other people. Now it was in his inbox, waiting for him to say yes. He immediately called Maya. "You're in!" she shouted before he could even say hello. "I'm in," he repeated, as if saying it out loud would help him believe it. The weeks leading up to the conference were a blur. Daniel practiced in front of the mirror, in front of his friends, in front of anyone who would listen. But no matter how many times he rehearsed, there was a shadow in the corner of his mind whispering, "What if you freeze? What if they laugh? What if you forget everything?" One night, about a week before the event, he was scrolling through comments on one of Mel's Instagram posts. Someone had written, "Your let them theory changed my life. I stopped trying to control how people see me." He clicked on the video attached to the comment. Mel was standing in front of a live audience, holding a microphone. Let them talk. Let them doubt you. Let them think you can't do it. Because while they're busy talking, you'll be busy building. Let them. Something about the simplicity hit him hard. It wasn't just about ignoring criticism. It was about understanding that other people's opinions were their problem, not his. He had been dragging that weight for years, and now she was telling him to drop it. Daniel decided then and there. He would show up to that stage with nothing to prove and everything to give. The day of the conference arrived. Backstage, he could hear the muffled sound of applause for the speaker before him. His palms were sweating, and his heart felt like it was punching through his chest. He remembered Mel's 5-second rule. He closed his eyes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Walk. And he walked. Out into the lights. The room was a sea of faces. Some curious, some distracted, some skeptical. The spotlight was warm on his skin, and for a moment, Daniel felt like he was watching himself from a distance. He took a deep breath and began. "I'm not a professional speaker. I'm just a guy who used to believe his dreams belonged to someone else." The words hung in the air. A few people leaned forward. He could feel the shift, the quiet curiosity in the room growing heavier. "I spent years telling myself I wasn't ready, that people like me didn't get invited to stages like this. But then I learned something that came from a 5-second decision." He explained how he'd discovered Mel Robbins, how he'd counted down from 5 and sent that email, how those few seconds had completely rewritten the course of his life. He told them about the nights of doubt, the mornings when he almost quit, and how the let them philosophy freed him from the prison of other people's opinions. Midway through his talk, he saw a woman in the third row wiping her eyes. That's when it hit him. This wasn't about him anymore. This was about the people in front of him who were fighting their own battles in silence. He finished with a pause, letting the weight of the last sentence settle. "Your dreams are not waiting for you to be fearless. They are waiting for you to move, scared, shaky, unprepared, but to move anyway." Silence. Then an eruption of applause so loud it almost startled him. People were on their feet. Some were clapping, some were cheering, and a few were just standing there with that look you get when someone has said the exact thing you didn't know you needed to hear. Backstage, the event organizer hugged him. "You have no idea how many people you just reached," she said. Daniel didn't know how to respond. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't thinking about whether he was good enough. He just knew he had shown up, and that was enough. That night, as he sat alone in his hotel room, he opened Instagram and saw dozens of tags from people who had been in the audience. One post caught his eye. "A man I've never met reminded me today that my fear is not a stop sign. Thank you, Daniel." He smiled, not because of the praise but because he understood now. Mel's voice, her words, they had been a spark for him. And now, maybe, he had been the spark for someone else. The morning after the conference, Daniel woke up earlier than usual. The city outside his hotel window was still half asleep. The streets quiet except for the distant hum of traffic. He sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through the photos and messages from last night. One message stood out. It was from a young man named Rayhan, sent at 2:14 a.m. "I was going to quit my studies today. I felt like I wasn't good enough. Your story made me realize I've been listening to the wrong voices. Thank you for giving me one more reason to try again." Daniel stared at the screen, the words blurring as his eyes watered. He had been in that place before, alone, convinced he wasn't capable. If one conversation could pull someone back from the edge, Then maybe this wasn't just a speech. Maybe this was his calling. As the days passed, the clips from his talk began to spread online. A short video of him saying, "Move scared, but move anyway" went viral on TikTok, gaining millions of views in just a week. People from different countries stitched the video with their own stories, quitting toxic jobs, starting new businesses, leaving unhealthy relationships. One evening, while checking his email, he saw a name he never expected. Mel Robbins. The subject line read, "Loved your talk." His heart skipped a beat as he opened it. "Daniel, I came across your conference speech. You spoke from a place of truth, and that's why people connected with it. Keep going. The world needs more real voices." Mel, he read it 3 times. This was the same person whose words had pushed him to take his first leap, now telling him to keep going. It felt like life had just come full circle. But with the sudden wave of attention came something else, criticism. Comments began to appear questioning his experience, mocking his delivery, and even accusing him of copying Mel. First, it stung. That old voice returned, whispering, "Maybe they're right." And then he remembered. Let them doubt. Let them talk. While they're busy judging, he would be busy building. So he kept showing up, podcasts, small events, Zoom calls with people who reached out for advice. Every time he spoke, he told the truth. He shared the messy parts, the failures, the times he almost gave up. And people kept listening because deep down they saw themselves in his story. One night, as he prepared a new talk, he wrote something in his notebook that he didn't realize would later become his signature line. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to walk forward while fear follows behind you. Months had passed since Daniel's first conference talk, and life felt almost unrecognizable. His calendar was now dotted with speaking engagements, some small enough to fit in a cafe corner, others large enough to fill auditoriums. But no matter the size of the crowd, he carried the same mindset. Speak to one person, the one who needs it most. One autumn evening, he found himself backstage at an event in New York City. The venue was grand, the kind that echoed with history. The host leaned in and whispered, "Full house tonight, over 2,000 people." Daniel's stomach fluttered, not from fear, but from gratitude. As he stepped onto the stage, the applause rolled over him like a wave. The lights made it impossible to see every face, but he could feel them, thousands of quiet stories sitting side by side, waiting for something to spark them alive. He began with a confession. "I used to think people on this stage were different from me. Smarter, braver, luckier. But the truth is, they're just people who said yes to one moment." He told them about the first time he hit send on that email, about the sleepless nights when he almost quit, and about the 3 words that kept him grounded when critics came after him. Let them. Midway through his talk, he noticed a teenage girl in the front row, sitting with her mother. Her eyes glistened as she listened. Daniel locked eyes with her for a moment, and it was like looking into a mirror of his younger self, hopeful but unsure. "I don't know your name," he said, speaking directly to her. "But I want you to know this, your fear is lying to you. You are ready now, not someday." The room was silent. Even the sound of shuffling feet had stopped. And in that stillness, something shifted. When the talk ended, the applause wasn't just loud, it was lasting. People didn't just clap. They stood, they cried, they hugged strangers. The teenage girl came up to him afterward, tears on her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. "I was going to give up on something important, but now, I'm not." As Daniel walked out into the cool night air, the city buzzing around him, he realized the truth he'd been chasing all along. You never know who's listening, or how far your words will travel. Sometimes it takes years to find your voice. And sometimes, all it takes is 5 seconds to use it. He smiled to himself, hearing Mel's words in his head. Keep going. And he did.